Hey everyone, we got nothing to talk about today, so we're just gonna get on with the.
See you later.
We're gonna see you later. Have a good day. Just hanging out. Nothing going down. Russ, what do you have? Anything?
Yeah, I wanted to mention. I saw something kind of amazing happening the other day, and it came to completion yesterday, and that was the Dallas Mavericks just absolutely tearing apart the Phoenix Suns. Like sometimes you could see when a team is sort of taking the will away from another team, and I felt like
For sure.
before the game 7, maybe Dallas and Luka Doncic did that. Yesterday at halftime, Luka Doncic had 27 points, and so did the Phoenix Suns. At one point in the game, the Dallas Mavericks led by 46 points. Like, this is the most lopsided game ever for like a game 7, and really anything in my recent memory of just getting destroyed.
Yeah, wasn't there another big one in the Sixers series? A big outside game?
No, not in the Sixers one. In the Celtics Bucks series, the Bucks won by 50.
Okay.
But then
ridiculous though, yeah.
And then the Celtics came back and won the series, so the Bucks can stick it up their ass. I'm a Celtics fan, by the way. So
good night, everyone.
And broadcast.
I returned home from a weekend at the shore to the craziest sound in my backyard that I'd never heard. It's just sound like screaming, like thousands of like horrible creatures being killed. I walk into the backyard, into the rink. I go over to the rink, and there is just this sound like there's nothing, like a billion crickets or whatever, just like this really loud sound. And I look in there, and with my son, we appear with the flashlight, and there are probably 30
foxes,
tree frogs.
Oh.
In my rink right now, living in what is a very safe, predator-free world.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do they get along with the foxes?
Yeah, but I don't think the foxes can't get into the ring. The foxes, they can only get under the ring. So the reality is, these frogs are torturing we're gonna have to relocate them. I mean, they're so loud that our neighbors are going to just kill us. They're going to hate us. I mean,
they're not your foxes. Like, it's just you're the beneficiary of it, but they're not yours.
Yeah, no, that's true. But they're
mad at you.
No, but we have it's because of our rink is essentially a pond in the summer. Sometimes, it became a big pond, and my son is loving this. Like, he thinks it's the greatest thing ever. Like, animal loving.
It all comes back to the failed rink, doesn't it?
It does, and so now
it's the epicenter of disaster.
I was online today trying to figure out how to catch 40 frogs and relocate them to another place, which will be my job later in the week. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Please take video of that. That would be fascinating.
I will definitely do some video of that.
Call it
their sound terrorizes my dreams.
Call it Ribbit Arena.
Oh my gosh, this is the craziest.
I mean, there is a thing I heard. The only reason I know about this, there was a Met, Kevin McReynolds, who was from like Arkansas.
Okay.
His favorite thing to do was frog gigging. And I guess that was like killing frogs. So maybe you need to have like a frog gigging thing.
I'm not killing anything. Our family here. Come on, you're animal person. Listen. I want you to hear the sound. Just because this is hard to imagine. Okay, so here we go. Ready? Okay, so this is hold on. This is great. Okay, so this is worth it. I promise you. This is what I heard last night when I came home. Just beyond reason. Hold on. Here we go.
Lonely Terry.
You are not lonely.
Wow.
Hundreds of these, and it's just like just the sound. Last year we had one tree frog in there, and we thought that was cute, cool, right. Whatever. This year we have
got the whole neighborhood,
the whole tree frog. All right, let's get going. Here we go. Wow. Speaking of frogs, all right. Hello, Hockey World. It is Monday, May 16th, 2022.
No. Damn it. No. I'm Michael Jello.
Okay, isn't it?
What the hell is Mike doing? I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And Russ and Mike.
Wait. I'll just play because I wanted to play this at the beginning and I couldn't, and now I can.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, geez, stop it. For those of you who don't know,
I will sign off.
And that's the last time I pray we hear that friggin' song.
yes, this is a big Leafs song, right?
It's the Toronto Maple Leafs goal song, and it must be changed because it's a curse.
And it's Hall Road, so it's immediately crap anyway.
But let's not talk about the Leafs right now. Let's
not start listing curses on the Leafs either, because that'll take a while.
True.
Yes.
Let's get into it, Mike.
Save that for let's start with the ones from last night and work our way back.
All right.
Yeah, that's good.
Because
two great Game 7 overtimes last night. Both just, 5 Game 7s. Probably the best first round ever.
Ever. But Mike hates it, but it's ever.
No, if you don't have a team in this race, it's just incredible nightly watching, and it's just shame it's over. I have a sad thing about the first round right now, though the second round has a couple really great matchups. So, but we'll get to that too tomorrow for sure, and the next day. But let's talk about the Rangers first, because the Rangers, here we are. They were down 3-1. They came back in all 3 of the final games, which has ever happened, I guess.
Never happened before in the history of the league.
Yeah, that's just crazy. And they get the win. And they win the series. Russ, are you surprised by this?
I'm not surprised they won the series. I thought they would win the game. We did off the post in the morning, and I said I felt like they were going to win. I did cite that elimination game record against the Penguins. Now, you could say most of that was Henrik Lundqvist, and I would have a hard time arguing with you, but now it's carried over. Shesterkin's done a few now. So This is a big deal. What's interesting is I love how people want to jump on you on Twitter when you're honest. So at one point in the third period, at the beginning, I said I would sit Panarin to start the third period. I did not say I would bench him for the game. I did not say I would do anything other than sit him at the beginning for a couple shifts. I didn't get into details, but sometimes you do that to spark a player. Because he was having the worst game of his career in that game, and then he wins it in overtime, which we always talk about. Panarin does that.
Right. Yeah, and of course, I'm sure Russ got a whole bunch of messages from people. Well, that tweet didn't age well because he's. Yep. That's what I mean. I get that all the time, and I wish some of those people would just stick it up there. You know what? Because it's because it's in the moment that I was observing the same thing. Panarin was terrible. He was making bad passes. He was making bad decisions.
He plays.
He was playing terribly.
No, he was playing terribly, no question about it. And it doesn't change what he did. He came up big with a great goal, but he still was playing terribly. And you guys need to get thicker skin, man. You're not. If you were Eklund, these things wouldn't bother you at all. You have no idea what you're talking about.
The inanity of some of these people. It's like, okay, we're commenting on the game as the game is going along. But this is the thing, and I picked the Rangers in 6 in this series. I give the Penguins a lot of credit, especially with Crosby coming back from. Well, it may have been concussion, but they said it wasn't. They said upper body. So I wonder if there's going to be an investigation on the concussion protocol.
It's a little shady. Let's say
it was weird that Crosby was out there. I was like, when I saw that, I was shocked. I don't know. It's just
the whole world thought it was a little shady. We have to be honest about it.
Jari comes out with an ice pack on his foot after the game. He played really well for a guy who hadn't played in about a month, and probably wasn't 100%, but he gutted it out. The Rangers. This is the thing. I love the MSG crowd. And the shots that TBS shot into the crowd after, Gensel makes this unbelievable goal where he kicks it and then bats it in past Shesterkin, and the Rangers come back and tie it up, I think like about a minute later. Yeah. And if I had $1 for every middle finger the MSG crowd was giving the Pittsburgh Penguins and the officials, I'd be a millionaire. And then
Pittsburgh salute up there. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Not the Pittsburgh. That's the Bronx salute or the Queens.
At this time, the Pittsburgh Penguins salute. This rivalry has just gotten better. It gets better and better all the time.
But and the same thing, and literally the same thing. And I got video of it. They tie up the game with like 3 minutes left to go in the third period, and they go to the MSG crowd, and it's middle fingers all over them. It's beautiful. I love.
Let's talk about that play, because Sidney Crosby, for the first time in his career, really didn't have a leg to stand on while talking about the helmet rule. Because when they went to overtime, right, because Marcus Pettersson went to the bench, Zibanejad scores the goal. That's his choice. He could have put the helmet back on. If he doesn't know the rule, shame on him. If there's players in the league that don't know the rules,
because you are allowed to continue playing if you put your helmet back on, right?
Correct. And Jen Botterill knew that, and she said that in between.
Good on her. I thought, because I honestly didn't know that.
It's fun. It's funny.
You don't have to know. You're not a player.
It's funny that the helmet rule was coming up so much in this, in the last few games, because in the Tampa-Toronto series, they were yelling and screaming because Braden Point had his chin strap undone, and they said that was a violation, that he had to go to the bench. No, they said it's not. It's not. They said if the helmet is on securely, that the chin strap doesn't have anything to do with it. So
I don't know. There was something going on with Kevin Hayes. Remember that chin strap?
Yeah, that's why I said that.
There is a rule about that. I don't know whether that's changed in the last year, but I remember 2 years ago, I think it was, Kevin Hayes got penalized for his shit.
That's what I remember.
Yeah, there's something with that too. I mean, but at the end of the day, I mean, listen, I mean, it was the evolution of Shesterkin. This series. It was, and this was, and although he wasn't the best goalie in this round, we'll get to that, but he was very impressive at the right times, and at some really important key moments.
He made 3 saves in a row on Gensel that were just Gensel did every move in his book.
Yeah.
And he stopped every
one. And Gensel scored what was one of the most incredible goals I've ever seen.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah.
Like that goal he scored was just
honestly, I thought Toronto got it wrong.
They did I'll tell you why they got it wrong.
I don't think they got it wrong.
Well, here's why I think they got it wrong. Shesterkin has one of those huge butterfly mitts, right? So because the stick, the blade of the stick was in the glove when it was above the net, they didn't count that. They waited until they saw the stick outside of the glove, which was below the bar. But I believe it was above the bar. I mean, it got it out of his glove.
It's academic because they ended up winning the game, but in the moment, that was a devastating call because
the glove secured it.
Yeah, and they're lucky that they responded from that. But this is the thing. I honestly think Pittsburgh. I think they did as well as could be expected.
Yes.
But this is a team that I think this is the last time you're seeing this team in the sense.
No, they're going to go one more year with this, Mike. I can guarantee.
Oh, that's nice because I don't think the Tank's coming back. I don't think
we don't know that yet because it's interesting what this kind of loss does to a team. Like I was thinking about that. Like this is the kind of loss that if they just lose the series in 5 or 6 games and don't look good, this might be the end of it. But when you lose this way, there becomes like a feeling of like, oh man, we let it go. There's an anger. There's a rallying cry. We got to get that. We got to and I wonder. That can not always be good for a team because it can mess up their rebuild.
What if Letang goes to Hextall? I'll sign a 1-year deal.
Yeah, and I heard some Letang rumors this morning that with Montreal that were really fascinating. So I mean, I think that that's going to play into it as well.
You will.
And Malkin, I wouldn't sign Malkin on a bet. Like honestly, another team like he just
on a 1-year deal. On a 1-year deal,
I don't know. I mean,
the whole league would sign him on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, I guess, but he's not signing a 1-year deal. So I mean, it's like To me, it's going to be at least 3 years, probably 5. And
I wouldn't sign him to 5.
No, I wouldn't either. And I mean, that's
3 years at the most. 3 years.
So I wonder at the end of the day, because it's funny. Like I heard somebody talking today who I really respect, Jeff Marek, obviously, and he was talking. And he said he's heard the Malkin contract numbers aren't close, which is like something that we've heard Kevin come on here and somebody he doesn't take less and all that stuff, and it kind of was a little bit like, well, if Malkin and Jeff Marek's as good as they come. So I don't know. That to me is
the guy we're not talking about is Rust. I mean, Rust is probably the most valuable of the 3.
He's the most important. Oh well, he's not more important than Letang.
Yeah, probably.
No, but he's like the 3rd most important, other than Crosby. Like he scored so many goals for them.
And he makes Crosby better too. I mean, that's the big thing too. Like, and Crosby. I mean, who was having like a series, another throwback series. Like we saw Quick have a throwback series. Crosby was there too until the injury, which was perfectly legal, by the way. Obviously, that hit was perfectly legal. I wasn't on since we talked about that.
Let me ask you this, Zach. Here's my thought. Would you keep Rust, Malkin, and everybody else and just let Letang go and try and do it that way?
I would keep. Maybe that's a
I
really
think with Marino and
good
everything else,
question. It's a good question.
I would
Also, Matheson's
I
coming
was-
into his own too. Like
If I was Ron Hextall, what I would do is I would trade Jason Zucker, clear his $5 million salary, and I would trade one of the defensemen that you have signed long term, Pedersen or Marino or Dumoulin, to open up the space to be able to sign those three guys. Otherwise, I think two of them are leaving.
No, you might do that too. You might.
Yeah, it's hard to think of what you got to go put your mindset of Hextall and Burke, right? I think what we should do today, though, by the way, is not discuss this future stuff yet because we have so much.
No,
we have every series to basically talk about almost. So let's
move to Calgary and Dallas then.
Yeah,
let's go to Calgary and Dallas and Ottinger. Like, let's just say it. Like, I mean, one of the best games I've ever seen. I think one of the best games anybody's ever seen. And the reality, and that goal was unbelievable that he was beaten on. I mean, just like when you watch how much space, they always say this much space. He had this much space. And Ottinger was in position for it, which is incredible. He was in the right spot. I mean, he was down on his knees, but that is the way.
He's 6'4", so on his knees, he's still.
Well, how much space did Zibanejad have in that top corner on Jari? It was like about that much.
Yeah, I mean, we said it before. You've said it before, Russ, and you were like, "Oh, you kept telling me don't underestimate on this."
And I appreciate that.
You're 100% right. And honestly, like watching him last night, like this is like, and then Elliot Freeman says this is like Carey Price like.
So here's what I did. I wrote about Ottinger because at the time he was being drafted, that 2017 draft, I did the pre-show. Yeah. And on the pre-show, Steve Coolius, last question to me, because I didn't do the regular draft, I just do the pre and post. He's like, is any goalie going in the first round? And at that time, if you remember, there was a great undercurrent that you can't draft a goalie in the first round.
Yeah, that was very right, very true.
And I said, no, Ottinger is going to go in the first round, and he should.
Well,
he did. And imagine if they didn't do it.
Yeah.
Let me relate something that Friedman said on the show, on Merrick's show. This is about an hour ago, and I'm not that I'm questioning somebody telling him this, but I'm questioning what the actual fact. He said that in that draft in Chicago that we were both at, Russ, that the Dallas Stars traded up with the Blackhawks into the first round to draft Ottinger.
Right.
And it was I think it's number 26 overall. They traded because they needed to get ahead of a team to take Ottinger before they took him. The team, he said, was the Philadelphia Flyers. And I'm like, wait a second. The Philadelphia Flyers had drafted Carter Hart the year before. Why the hell would they draft Ottinger?
Yeah, I kind of questioned that too.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that there was a team probably at the bottom of the
first round. I don't remember it that way. I do remember working the rumors of that draft, of course. And I do remember the trade, and I remember them they did trade up to beat some team that they were afraid was going to take them. But
and then the Flyers took Morgan Frost with that pick. Right. So I'm well aware of the machinations of, because they got Morgan Frost in the deal, that pick from St. Louis, and I think it was the Braden Shen deal, Russ.
Yeah.
I mean, on one side you say, okay, Carter Hart, of course, but on the other side, with all the Flyers goaltending woes, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that they could have said, listen, we have had no, you got to remember where the Flyers,
we're going to load up.
Yeah, we're just going to have two of the best goalies. One of these guys will work out, and that's possible. And it's not but Ottinger, just watching this kid play, and he's 23. He's not a kid. They brought him up the right way.
But you remember, I was getting mad last year because they were yo-yoing him, and then when I outwardly questioned it. I was like, what are you doing? But in the end, I can't tell you whether Dallas bungled that by signing Holtby and they got lucky because Ottinger just outplayed them, or was it those extra 10 games in the AHL? Ottinger gets 50-something games that gave him that little extra. I can't tell you for sure. But
I heard about that. I did some research on that over the weekend because I was going to write a story on Ottinger as well. And I was told that Jim Nill was also really upset about the yo-yoing back and forth thing, and that he was getting pressure from some people in the Dallas higher-ups to bring Ottinger in. So so Nill figures, I just sign Holtby and then they'll shut up. And then he can leave Ottinger there and let him be his thing. You know what I mean? Then you don't have to deal with that, because that always is going on. The owners everybody's excited about seeing Ottinger now, of course, but no one's going to get that net for the next 10 years. You know, it's like,
but it was simply by happenstance that he got this opportunity because Ben Bishop was hurt and they didn't expect Ben Bishop to be back. Khudobin get hurt. Holtby got hurt, so everybody fell by the wayside to give him the opportunity. If all those guys had stayed healthy, he'd still be with the Texas Stars of the AHL. So it wasn't like some grand.
He would be the next Binnington, like he'd be that next guy. I'd be saying,
exactly.
I don't understand.
Yeah, which ends up, and then 23 is about the time you should start. You should start being in the NHL. You know, this is like for a goalie, that's about the time you should do it. And I think that he's not. Someone says he's the next Bishop. He's like a young Bishop. He's not. I don't think he's not. I don't think he's, at least stylistically. I think he is. He's just way more. He's
different than Bishop. I don't know.
Yeah, stylistically, he's more flexible than Bishop.
Yeah, he's more flexible. That's a good way to say it.
Now, of course, his ELC expires this year,
which is gonna be something we're gonna talk about a lot this summer, because that's gonna be an issue. They're gonna have to keep him at all costs. You know,
we have to clear out all those other goalie salaries that they have.
I mean, if there is like an offer sheet type possibility, man, this is a good one because it's like this is I think that how much teams want a best number one goalie. I mean, if you're Seattle, this is it's an interesting call to make. I don't know. I think that we'll see how that plays out. But all right,
let me just
let's talk about that game too.
Right
first, because I mean there was just no question that Calgary was the better team, and in my mind there was no question that Dallas was going to win that game. Like as I'm watching it go along, I'm like, this is going to, because when it got to overtime and Dallas started actually taking over a little bit. And if Dallas doesn't take that penalty, which is not, was a rigged, but another thing, we'll talk about the refs, of course, but how the refereeing changed in game 6s and 7s drastically, like that's what makes you insane. Like
it did change. You're right.
I mean, unbelievably different. And then for that penalty to be called in overtime on what was it? I forget for the Dallas Stars. Seguin, right? I think takes penalty in overtime. That penalty breaks the momentum that Dallas was rolling, and Calgary looked absolutely frigging terrified in overtime. Like I've never seen a team more nervous. Like every time they touched the puck, they were bouncing off.
All the pressure was on them. They're the overwhelming favorite.
Oh, no question, the pressure was on them. But Dallas had a moment there. Like you can see those moments. Like Dallas had a moment that they could take it. It was theirs to take it.
Well, okay, and I'll just make this analogy, and I'm not saying that Calgary is going to go on to win a Stanley Cup, but I do think that this series reminded me back in 2011 when Boston played Montreal in the first round, and that went to Game 7 in overtime, and I think it was Nathan Horton who scored the winning goal. And once Boston got past Montreal, it sort of sprung them and gave them momentum. I will tell you right now, not to make a prediction because we'll do that in a couple days. Yeah. I think Calgary will have a much easier time in the second round against a porous Edmonton defense than they will against Dallas, who played with Heiskanen and Klingberg and Lindell. They played a much tighter
logically, I agree with you, Mike. But I do think that the one thing, and we'll get to predictions, but the one thing you have to throw out, you sometimes have to throw out logic at a certain level when rivalries are involved. Like I think logically those teams play. There's a way Edmonton plays against everybody else, and there's a way they play against Calgary. There's a way Calgary plays against everybody else, and there's a way they play against Edmonton. You know what I mean? And it's also the same with Florida and Tampa. So the Battle of Alberta, the Battle of Florida, it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. I'm so glad they put them on opposite nights. I'm so glad they separated them out. But all right. So let's.
Well, let me ask you this, Ek.
Go ahead.
This is what blew my mind yesterday. Calgary's not scoring.
No.
Kachuk got his first goal. Toffoli got his first goal.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that heats him up.
I mean, but let's note. I mean, I'm just throwing a lot of that on Ottinger. I mean, he stopped 50 shots in 3 games. Like when you do that, it's like that. The reality is that it took perfect goals to score on.
It's like this, Russ. Calgary Flames. Here's your present. You're facing Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen. That's your present.
And I want to ask also their nightmare because these teams, it goes back and forth. Like they have. It's just gonna be phenomenal.
How many goals does Andrew Mangiapane have in the playoffs?
I know. Did you see my blog? You obviously didn't read my blog yesterday, Russ, because I put my and there's things we're going to talk about throughout the source of the show, but I put my observations, and my last observation is Andrew Mangiapane needs ice time. It's like it's absurd how little ice time he's getting. And yeah, he scores one goal. And yeah, like Kachuk scored one goal too. But, like you said, and everybody in that series, but Mangiapane scored one goal with like playing 10 minutes less per game. It's like, it's absurd. That eventually, anyway, we're done with that. All right. So let's move on from that series.
Edmonton, LA.
Markstrom some credit in that series, which doesn't happen.
Yeah, Markstrom was
actually saved their ass in the overtime a couple times in different situations and that is a tough spot to be in when you are like the prime goalie, like you're one of the best goalies in the league, and you're not getting any shots, and the other young goalie on the other side of the ice is like stealing the show. That focus is very, very hard. I was impressed with Markstrom's focus. All right, now moving on to other series.
Edmonton, LA.
Start with Edmonton, LA. I personally want to throw it out there that I have never seen in my entire years of watching hockey a player with more intensity than McDavid had in the series. I've never seen a face like McDavid's, like when the angst that was on his face, the real, you're watching a guy who realizes that if he doesn't do everything, they're not going to win. And it was like very transparent in the way he looked. They would score a goal, and I remember they scored this goal in game 6. It was that gave them the lead, and instead of celebrating, he looked immediately at the clock. Like it was just one of those things. It was his focus was just insane. Like he absolutely.
The only goal I could give you is when Messier scored the hat trick against the Devils. He basically took that game under. He guaranteed the victory, and then he guaranteed it on the ice.
He did. The difference there, Messier's several cups already established himself.
Right.
This is not just carrying Edmonton. This is also McDavid establishing himself as what he should be, like the superstar, right? And I just honestly I haven't seen him play a lot, but I've never seen him play when his look on the bench was just crazy intense. Like,
and that's what makes him better than Draisaitl. For those that want to say, well, Draisaitl has just as many points or just as many goals or whatever.
No. I mean, the chatter was that Draisaitl was playing hurt and might not even play in Game 7.
Yeah, there was a lot that going on, and it looked like it to me. Like Draisaitl
ended up playing, so
Draisaitl was staying away from the hits and away from the board. You could see that, which is not Draisaitl's game. But like just the intensity. I mean, he was the best player in the opening round. McDavid, there's no two ways about it. I mean,
I'm not.
First of all, 14 points in 7 games.
I'm not disputing your assertion, Act. But the thing I come back to every time with Edmonton is that McDavid has to do that because
we all know that, and that's true.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
Of course, that's the problem. But the reality is he actually overcame that by himself, and that is something that I don't think I've ever seen a player do. That
was the second weakest matchup in the first round. The weakest was Colorado, Nashville. The second weakest was Edmonton, LA, and LA.
Still gotta win it.
Well, right, but what I'm saying is LA forced them to 7 games, and the reason that they forced them to 7 games is because Edmonton is an inherently flawed team who I think is going to get destroyed in the second round because they're an incredibly flawed team. They have the best or one of the best and second best players in the league, and they go 7 games with the LA Kings.
I don't think they're going to get destroyed. I disagree with you.
No,
I think they're going to lose.
You're also fighting a team with Calgary that has a history of losing the second. Like Calgary is also there's 2 teams that don't that 2 teams that are playing not to lose sometimes. And in Calgary,
exactly. What did Calgary show you that tells you they're going to light up Edmonton?
Yeah, Dallas isn't as good as LA.
They're going to beat them. I said they're going to. I mean, I think the matchup, Ross. I mean, the matchup of Calgary versus Dallas was a head-to-head defensive matchup. It was a chess game. It was a physical chess game.
Yeah.
It was a chess game nonetheless. Edmonton, LA. I mean, when Deneau and Kopitar could shut Draisaitl and make David down, Edmonton had no answers. It was in the last 2 games. I think LA got worn out.
Yeah.
I think Quick, at a certain point, Quick couldn't play superhuman anymore. And Edmonton was the better team because they had better talent. But they're not a great team at all. That's why I think they're, enjoy this victory while it lasts.
I don't think Calgary is a great team either.
I mean, the underrated player in the Edmonton series was Yamamoto, honestly.
He was good.
Yeah, who was really very important, and putting him on that line was really a big move. And that's like, but you do have guys like, they're very good at making 3rd and 4th liners look all like 4th liners. Like how is like they just don't. There's something about that team that doesn't. And this is we'll get into this, a bigger thing. Is it McDavid? Is it just all of it all or whatever? But why is that? Why does this team make like players that are good look bad? Just not have just not have any confidence. Like and not have any confidence at all. Like Puljujarvi is a good example. Like we've seen he can do things. He's got talent, but then now he's like looks horrible again. It's really just. I don't know. Anyway.
Hyman did well. Hyman did not have a bad series.
Okay, series, yes, but and actually Hyman got better.
Evan Bouchard had 5 assists.
No, Bouchard. I'm talking more about the forwards. I mean, I think the defense did pretty good.
I never want to hear again the statement that the players that are acquired at the trade deadline are meaningless because first in the Carolina Boston series, who scored 3 points in the deciding game? Max Domi, who was by the way throwaway deal, who hadn't done much for Carolina for the rest of the regular season in the playoffs, but in Game 7 he performs fantastically.
And quietly, Mike, what's funny about that? Because of Bill Zito. They get Max Domi because Bill Zito works out that contract as far as the money goes.
Yeah,
and he does that. Yeah, and because Ekblad gets hurt, actually,
right. But
and then Zito can do that, and that gets Domi. Without that, doesn't happen, right?
But the other thing, the other thing in that one is the GOAT of the series might be Taylor Hall for taking that stupid penalty on Anthony DeAngelo, giving him a power play at the end of the first period and allowing Carolina to get up 2-0. Boston was chasing the game the rest of the game, and they only lost by a goal, but that goal was a killer.
And I want to go back to Edmonton because I have to ask, who's stopping Evander Kane? He had 9 points.
Yeah, no, he is. He was. It was interesting. He was quietly
he was effective every game.
Yeah, he was a part of every game, and he wasn't so in. I think he got better as the series went along too. Like in the earlier games, he was really good at the end of the series. Okay, so here's the other thing: we got to talk about Florida and Washington.
Yep.
And talk about trade deadline things working, Mike. When I remember talking to Bill Zito right after the Claude Giroux trade and saying that what you'll get out of Claude Giroux is you'll get the big game at the big time. And we talked about it on the show here before. I mentioned it before that Claude Giroux will do what he did. We've seen him do in Philly, what he did in Game 6, which is like he scores the goal to tie it. He makes an unbelievable pass to Barkov to put it in, to give them the lead. Of course, Washington comes back and ties it, and then makes a great pass in overtime to win it. I mean, Verhaeghe, our modern day John Druce, is it's just fun to watch too. And that's another one. I mean, game to me. The 3-0 lead that Washington had in Game 6. That at that point, I'm watching Bobrovsky and he's doing terribly, and I'm like, he's in trouble. I was texting you guys, this is bad, because we've seen Bob over the years. And Bob, what Bob's game going to be like in the first 5 minutes of the game. Like Bobrovsky, that is his thing. Like they hit a post on the first shot. I'm like, oh, we're in trouble. Like, it's like that, and Bobrovsky he was just terrible. But what's interesting, and I wrote this in my story too, is that Florida has figured out that pulling Bobrovsky when he's doing badly makes you lose him for like a month. Like you have to let Bobrovsky play through these things. It's weird it's kind of counter to every other goalie. Like, you just pull guys or whatever. This is counter to all that. There's no question that by you keep him in and let him play through it. That's what they did. So
I still don't know if his job is safe though.
No, I don't think so either. There was Game 5. I apologize. It was Game 5.
Yeah, I don't know if his job is safe, but he got through it.
He got through it. He made some big saves at the end of the game. It still doesn't like make me feel all warm and fuzzy, and I worry about Tampa.
I don't think he's ever going to make anybody feel that way.
No, and you worry about Tampa, like what happened in Tampa. But the fact that they scored the 3 goals in like 7 minutes to come back from 3-0 to tie it, and you just knew at that point that the nerves, that a lot of the problems that Florida Panthers were having was nerves. That they were.
I'm going to tell you, it was because I think what Claude Giroux was able to do for Florida was show them, hey, look, I've been in these spots before. I've been in worse than these spots. I've been playing with a lousy team all year. Yeah. Having the opportunity to do what Giroux did also showed a lot of those guys how to do it. And I think now I think now they're getting the feeling, like I think Giroux has added a feeling of winning to them because he's been around the block. And I think Giroux, look, he'll never say it, but I feel like he feels like he's got the shackles off because he was trying to do everything on the Flyers.
Yeah, everything. Sure, 100% he was. Yeah. And I don't know what's going on with my thing here. Sorry, my phone's going nuts. All right. So anyway, apologize.
Well, okay.
Okay, but am I back now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, good. All right. I'm freezing up, but if you guys aren't freezing up, it's fine.
No, go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, just watching that game.
Yeah, but I know you said that Giroux and the fact that the acquisition of him was key, and I don't disagree with that. But the star of that series was Carter Verhaeghe. Friggin' Verhaeghe, and every time I go and hear Carter Verhaeghe's name, as we lose Zach for a sec, every time I hear Carter Verhaeghe's name, Russ, I think of, okay, this was a guy that Lou Lamoriello threw on the scrap heap in a 5-for-1 deal for Michael Grabner back in 2015 or 2016, and 2015, and this is a guy who the Islanders didn't really appreciate what they had because he went back and forth between the AHL and the ECHL. Only when he went to Syracuse for Tampa Bay did they give him an opportunity and really take advantage of what good attributes he has. He wins a cup in Tampa Bay. Now he signs a contract with Florida, and he's a fantastic player for them.
He was their best player. He was.
Yeah. Yeah. So as Russ is recovering from his coughing fit, I don't know if we're getting Eck back. He may have dropped off by the show. So okay, the series that we didn't talk about and that I was holding to last was the Toronto Tampa, and we hashed this out on Off the Post, but I'll just cover territory that we didn't cover on that show because I think we've let's just say this, not that there's been any breaking news, and I don't think there is going to be any breaking news in terms of like today is the firing day. Peter DeBoer got fired in Vegas. We'll talk about that in a second. Oh, there's Zach. So we're talking about Toronto Tampa.
Yeah, let's move on to Toronto Tampa. And before you give the eulogy, which I definitely want to hear, and everybody wants to hear, I want to say one thing, and that is that this was the best Toronto Maple Leafs team we've seen, and this team, and I know no one wants to hear this, no one wants to hear that at all, but that this team actually deserved way better fate. That they did get screwed, in my opinion, a little bit, but beyond that, they played perhaps the best team in the league. Maybe they gave them the hardest run they're going to get, and it was really, to me, it's a shame that we all carry our history with us, that all this history, because this is not any of the other times the Leafs have been eliminated in the last 5 years, 6 years.
I know, but see, okay, you can't complain about penalties anymore. You can't complain about the breaks. You can't complain about the goal song. It's all. You can't complain. I mean, I agree with every point that this was the best Leaf team of the last 6 years. Yeah. They had the most complete defense, the best defense of those 6 teams. I don't know if Jack Campbell was the best goalie, but he was not the reason that they lost. Their star players showed up at times. Some of them did not. But early in the series, Matthews and Marner were under. You couldn't control them. Later in the series, it was tougher for them. Tavares peaked in games 5, 6, and 7. Nylander was in and out, which is I'm going to have a problem with. But in the end, they weren't the best team. And this is for an organization that is in the quote center of the hockey universe that spends up and above the cap. This is not acceptable. Now, I made it clear on when we talked about this on Off the Post yesterday. Dubas is not getting fired. Sheldon Keefe is not getting fired. What does that leave you? That leaves you changing up the roster. And even I just heard Elliot Friedman a couple hours ago saying, well, what I've been saying for 2 years, they can't have their physicality in the bottom in the top 4 or in the bottom 4 or bottom 6 on the fourth line. They can't have it. They have to have physicality and the ability to have sandpaper in their top 6, and you can't have that with 4 forwards making $40 million. Friedman mentioned a guy like Tyler Bertuzzi, who a couple years ago they were interested in bringing in, but the problem is that with his COVID situation, if he's not vaccinated, I don't think he'd be able to play in Canada. But a player like that, and how is that possible? Gee, let me think. William friggin' Nylander.
Someone's going to take the hit, and it probably has to be Nylander. You're right. We've been talking about it forever. The same kind of thing.
And it's not because he's not a good player. It's because you have too many of the same player.
Yeah, and he might very well thrive someplace else. Like he might thrive in a different situation. He is
there's still management and coaching issues here too. There are.
Well, he was outcoached by Cooper, and I think that's true for sure.
If I'm Shanahan, I really do have to find out what the next 2-year plan is for both these guys. Because I told Mike, if I don't like what they say in the meeting, I might fire them both.
John Cooper is maybe top 2 or 3 coach in the league.
Yeah.
I don't believe Sheldon Keefe was outcoached by John Cooper.
No, he was outcoached, Mike. Come on.
Why? What? Okay. What is the justification for that? What?
Okay, so
I will tell you what it is.
Players. He had the better players.
No, it's his ability.
Did he have the better players? I don't know about that.
Yes, he did.
He did shut
players.
He was very good at getting the matchups he wanted against Matthews and Marner, even in Toronto. He did focus so much on them that Tavares, started to become become a real factor. Because Tampa's not that deep that they can shut down both of those lines, and Tavares was a huge revelation in this series. I mean, he was that was the best Tavares we've seen in Toronto since he's been there.
Heck, this was my feeling. If Tampa can shut down every other team in the league for the last 8 minutes of a game and not let them get any good scoring chances, then I'll apologize to the Leafs. But until then, they didn't do anything to try and get back in that game.
Tampa did the same thing to Toronto in Game 7 that they did to the New York Islanders in Game 7 last year. It was a 1-0 game after Yanni Gourde scored the goal, and they shut them down. That's what they did. And
considering everything that was going on, and the other thing is this: a team with all that friggin' pressure and all the craziness of Toronto facing that hasn't won, facing it, so the fear of losing is huge in that room. You can't get around that no matter what you do. Against a team that has no fear of losing because they've won 2 Stanley Cups. Sure, they'd like to win again, but it's not like the pressure's on it. That pressure difference probably was the difference. It's as small as it can, because the difference was small in this series. I mean, it was small. It was minuscule. It could have. I really felt in Game 6, the 5-on-3 power play was brutal, and that to me was the moment that they did. You can say the Leafs got screwed.
But this is
I also thought the pick that they called, the Tavares, the Tavares goal in Game 7.
This is the problem. People are making excuses for this team to justify them not making any changes.
But the reason you're making excuses, how many changes do you want to make?
This is a really good team. Wait, how many times can you bring back the same core?
You can't.
You're bringing back. Wait. Come on. You're bringing back the same core group, and you're expecting something different. It's not going to be different.
It was different. It just wasn't victory. It was different. It was very different.
Victory's all that matters.
No, but
you can't beat that 12-year-old pickleball team. It's the same thing.
No, they were way better than us. They dominated us. This is very different. This was an even match.
These are the excuse. Okay, I've heard. Well, if this Toronto team had played Montreal last year, they would have won. Yeah, the problem is they're not playing Montreal. They're playing Tampa Bay.
Of course, I know, and that is the problem. And last year's Toronto team was a huge failure. That was a huge failure. There's no choice. We all said it. We all felt it. This is not a failed season. And this is a team that
it's not.
Oh my God! Okay,
yes, it is. It's a failed season.
It's a failed season.
If you played Tampa in the finals or the semifinals, would it have been a failed season?
Yeah, but the conference, it's not a conference format. It's a division.
You have no choice. You have no
you
choice
have
but to play them now. You were going to play them at some point, yes. But
you
the
have to
reality is
find a
you
way
would have beaten
You have to
anybody
find
else
a
in the
way to
playoffs.
beat the teams that are in front of you.
Wait, you're telling me the Leafs would have beaten Florida now?
They might have. If they
might
played,
have.
they really. No, I'm serious. They really might have. I mean, if they played like that, they were at times doing. I have not seen. We've watched Tampa and how many playoff series. When have we ever seen them dominated like Toronto could dominate them at times? I mean, that we've never seen that. And for Toronto to not curl up like they did last year against Montreal in the final game, but actually attack. They were. I'm telling you, it's the problem is that they need a little bit of the Boston Bruin mentality in their head right now and say, we lost. We could have won. It could have bounced the other way, and everybody would be like, "Woohoo, we're great!"
Yeah,
it was a bounce. It was a bounce.
Unfortunately, the Boston Bruins won or fortunately for them, the Boston Bruins won a Stanley Cup in 2011 and got to a Stanley Cup final in 2019. The Leafs haven't been past the first round in 18 years.
We all know that.
Somebody who was born when the Leafs last won a playoff series is driving now. They're going to be drinking next year.
There's players on that team are so young that none of them would be old enough to really even remember it.
You have to drink to be a Leafs fan.
Well, please.
Listen, here's the thing. Every team has to make changes. Regardless, if you win the Stanley Cup, whatever, you have to make changes.
Right, but okay, but the thing, okay, this is the issue, Ak. We've seen over this 6 year, just talk about the 6 year span. We've seen 2 coaches, both have lost 3 times. We've seen 2 general managers. We've seen 2 number 1 goaltenders. We've seen a variety of different defensemen and secondary wingers and third liners and fourth liners. The only thing that hasn't changed, the only constant over those 6 years has been that core group.
Sure.
And I'm not saying blow them up. I'm not saying send them to the moon. I'm saying you need to change that group up because all they have proven in 6 years is that they can lose. They have not proven that they can win. And until you change them up, all that's going to happen is they'll continue to lose.
You don't see the danger in that? Like this team being this good. I don't know.
I don't see the danger in it, Ak, because I think if you continue to lose, that everybody's concerned about Austin Matthews leaving. If they continue to lose, Austin Matthews is going to leave. You need some victory. You need some success.
Yeah, you got to win at some point.
Right.
They do have to win at some point, and they will if they stay on this track.
No.
You played the best friggin' team, and you could have beaten them with a bounce.
They find a reason and a way to lose no matter what.
It has nothing to do with the problem is, Mike, it has nothing to do with
I'm going to disagree. It's not a bounce because in game 6, they had the lead. They could have won game 6. We wouldn't even be talking now, but they couldn't close out.
Nobody's interested.
If there wasn't a friggin' stupid, ridiculous call on Giordano to throw that into a 5-1-3, they would win that game.
It was over the glass.
I'm not here to blame the referees. That's how close it was. That's all I'm saying.
The ridiculous call was the first one that it wasn't a high stick. It hit somebody. It hit Cal Foot's shoulder.
They were both stupid calls at that time in the game.
This is the thing. Nobody is interested in excuses anymore. Like Gretzky, Gilmore, 93. Nobody. It doesn't matter. This group.
I know that, and that's what pains me because they're going to make a stupid mistake because of
the past,
not because of the present.
This is what I mean. Okay, I think they have enough confidence in Kyle Dubas as a general manager in terms of his talent recognition and what's going on. I mean, they lost Zach Hyman in free agency. They replaced Zach Hyman in the aggregate with 3 players who in the end made them a better team.
Yeah.
I trust Kyle Dubas and his ability to recognize talent to make a deal that works. If you trade William Nylander, you're not trading him for a bag of pucks.
I'm not saying that trading Nylander isn't a good idea. Even if they had won it, it's still a good idea. Like I think you're right about what you're saying. They need if they do the right kind of you're right that they got better. They got better with not signing Hyman. They made that did help them because this is the best like third and fourth lines that we've seen ever of the Maple Leafs as well. So in this era of Maple Leafs. So I mean they're getting scoring from all over the place. They've got some young guys. They're really impressive. they've got some players who are coming up that are really, and you see this, right? You see this very easily.
See, but this is the kind of reaction we get. If you at least want to make a statement in that locker room, you trade Marner. Marner had 97 points. He was not the reason why they lost, Esmir. I don't see that's what I mean. The reaction, I had somebody text me or tweet me and say, well, they should buy out Tavares. Tavares was a point per game player playing on the second line.
Yeah, no, he's not. And Tavares is obviously important, right? You saw his importance more than probably ever before in the series. It was just he was there. He was absolutely. I mean, I was so impressed with Tavares. He made some great plays. He really tried to put him on his. He tried to do the McDavid thing, put him on his back when Marner and Matthews were being blocked in. I mean, this is a. I think Campbell was outstanding.
Campbell was not the reason they lost.
No,
Campbell.
He was outstanding. I mean, especially in games 6 and 7, Campbell kept them close the entire. There were times when it could have been easily. He could have given up one goal at any point, and it would have been the end. But he didn't, and he kept them in it. And I was just shocked because I thought about that.
At a certain point, you have to if the same thing happens over and over, you have to make a shift into a different direction. You just can't hit the same note over and over. It just can.
But if they won,
let me ask a question Brendan Shanahan should ask.
Okay.
Kyle.
Yeah.
I hear the Devils are interested in Jack Campbell. They can outbid us for him. If we don't have Jack Campbell, why did you sign Mrazek to a long-term deal? And who the hell's our goalie next year?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
His answer will be: we signed Mrazek because Jack Campbell. We didn't think with his health issues over his career could be a 50 to 60 game goaltender. So we had to find a 1B, and they paid the cheapest of any of the 1Bs out there.
I thought they were. I didn't have a problem with that. Hindsight's 2020, of course. I never have a problem with that. But I didn't have a problem with them getting a goalie of that level. That was like a 1B. Right. I did have a problem with getting Mrazek. Because of the fact that Mrazek hasn't played well with others in the past.
Your opinion is rightly colored by the fact that Mrazek was a failure in Philadelphia.
No, it's a failure. It's colored more by what he did, how they run him out of town in every place he's gone. Like Detroit ran him out of town.
Carolina didn't run him out of town. He got hurt.
All right, so let's say Campbell's gone. Who are they getting?
Well, there are a number of goalies out there, Russ. Okay,
but a number of goalies you haven't gotten out of the first round in all these years, and now you're going to go and get another goalie. This is on Kyle Dubas. This is
Campbell is in a tough spot. They're in a tough spot with Campbell because
what was his option to sign Freddie Anderson to a 4-year deal for over $5 million bucks?
I didn't say that was the option.
Okay, but
I think they tried to extend Campbell this year. It didn't work.
They tried to extend. They offered Campbell 2 years at $3.5 million before the season. He said no. I'm going to bet on myself. And the thing is, if Campbell asks for more than say $4.5 million, I think they're going to go in a different direction. I think they're going to
end up getting an older or recycled goalie. Is that going to make them better for next year?
No, but okay, Russ, we don't know what the direction of their goaltending is going to be. It could be Marc-Andre Fleury. It could be trading for John Gibson. We don't know right now.
I don't have a lot of faith that Dubas is going to be.
They had a chance to trade for Jonathan Quick, I just remind you.
But that's true. I mean, in retrospect, Eck's right about that. But in fairness, I don't have a lot of faith in Dubas solving the goaltending position. He's not shown me the ability to do that.
Yeah, my faith in Dubas is not as high as yours either, Mike. But I do think that I'm more along Russ's level there. But I do want to say that I think that the Hyman thing, who he got in to replace Hyman was solid, and I do think that
that was good.
I do think that Nylander, that if he makes the right Nylander move, it could help. But but at the same time, I don't think that should be colored by the fact they're making the same mistake over. This is insanity is repeating yourself. This team played well enough to win this series. They did. They just did.
I don't know if Peter was joking in our group text, but if all of a sudden Winnipeg wanted to do a Nylander Scheifele deal, I think the Leafs would sign up for that, and then what would happen would be they'd probably move Tavares to the wing.
Sure, I get that, but that still doesn't solve their goaltending problem. That's their biggest problem.
The goaltending problem wasn't the reason that they lost.
No, but their lack of consistency in goaltending is what's costing them over time here.
The
I'm not
goaltending.
blaming the series on Campbell, but I'm telling you, going into next year, if it's 39-year-old Marc-Andre Fleury, I don't feel good about them.
Yeah, that smells like a fear of commitment.
I don't.
Like they need to commit to Campbell.
Hey, they could be the high bidder for Ville Husso for all we know. I'm just saying.
But is he better than Campbell? Really?
I don't know. We don't know.
You have Campbell.
Do this. Ever since Anderson, who was okay, he was okay.
Wait a second. You're the biggest.
I just said he's okay. I didn't say he's good, Mike.
You're the biggest Freddie Anderson
critic. I am.
Okay, it's not a ringing endorsement.
And it's not a ringing endorsement. And Carolina's winning without Anderson. So it does show you something. But the point is, like, he's never been able to upgrade that position.
Right.
That is
do you consider Jack Campbell an upgrade over Freddie Anderson?
It's an upgrade over Freddie Anderson.
Okay, then he upgraded the goal.
Hold on, you didn't let me finish. But he was playing with fire with that contract. That was the problem. That's the mistake he made, and now he's going to pay for it.
Which
because
contract?
Another team.
Which Campbell?
The Campbell contract.
He inherited.
Could have extended Campbell at the right.
He should have extended him immediately. Now that he didn't, another team is going to outbid him.
But the problem is, you're coming off the Montreal series, and you're coming off, and this is what happens. This is what they came off a Montreal series, right? Where they, can you extend Campbell after that series because you're going to blame?
He had a good year. He did.
I thought he was fine too, but the reality is, this is the problem when you let your past dictate your future. Like again, they're looking at Campbell like, oh, we lost Montreal. He might not be. This is not. You need to grab control of your life. Like if they were a friend of yours, you're like, stop, get control of your life. Do what you think you should do. Don't do what you think everyone else thinks you should do. Do what you think you should do.
At the point that they were negotiating with Campbell, he had been a part-time number one starter for 20 games and had won playoff series. So they offered him 2 years at I think $3.5 million, which is pretty decent offer for a goalie you're not sure about. And he said, okay, I'm going to bet on myself. Okay, he had a good year this year. He made an all-star team. He in the middle of the year, he played terribly, and then he got hurt.
Up there. So the reason Campbell said, I'll bet on myself is because he didn't like the offer. If he got an offer he liked, he wouldn't have bet on himself.
Right, but Russ, are you going to offer a guy who played 20 games and played one playoff series $5 million a year? No.
You're paying Mrazek money that you're never going to get back.
You're going to trade him, Russ.
Okay. Yeah, I want to see the magical trade.
Okay. All right. Well, they got Ilya Lyubushkin for Nick Ritchie, so we'll see. We'll see. But
even if you trade Mrazek, then you have no goalies.
Russ, they're going to have goaltenders. They're not the Chicago Blackhawks.
And they're going to get bounced in the first round again, Mike.
Well, we'll see. Just touch on this before we end the show. The two coaches, one hiring, one firing. Lane Lambert hired by the Islanders, which was pretty much expected because it sounded when they fired Barry Trotz, it sounded like they fired Barry Trotz because they were afraid Lambert was going to get away, and they cleared the way to keep Lambert in New York. I don't know how good it is. I don't know much about Lane Lambert. I know I know through Kevin, he had indicated that he was a candidate for the Red Wings.
I mean, Kevin spoke highly of him, and maybe he is going to be that good. But do you automatically hire somebody without interviewing anybody?
Now, here's the thing. Lou is like starting to look like an old man sometimes. Like he's doing like this thing. He's surrounding himself with comfort people. Like he's, as in this league, which is changing constantly, you cannot be that way. You have to go out there and actually take bold moves and bring in younger, newer type play.
You're right. Even we're pretty sure now that Lou wants the style of play to change. We know that, and we know it's because of Matt Barzal. That makes sense. I get that. I get all of that.
Yeah.
But how does it look to the public if you don't interview anybody or don't get talked about interviewing anybody, and you won't talk about interviewing anybody, and you just hire this guy? That's not going to make the fans happy.
No, and it's not, and you can almost sense like this is like part of like Lou Lamoriello's culture building concepts. Like we bring people from up within. You work hard in your organization, you get rewarded. This is what they do. So Lambert's getting rewarded. Now, that is his method of doing things, and in the end, he feels that all these things have positive results, right? And sometimes they do, but it's not. I don't know. It's not a comfortable moment for the Islanders fans for sure. But this Islanders team is definitely. I mean, it's really hard to imagine that Barry Trotz is going to be better than that Barry Trotz's assistant is going to be better than Barry Trotz. Like, why would that be the case? Like, why would you think that? Why would you logically feel that's the case unless you just think that Trotz was holding back players like Barzal, like you're saying, or anything like that, and Lambert was pushing for them. But remember, Lambert was in the assistant. We've talked about this many times. The assistant coach job, right? The coach position is very different. Like he's going to be the guy who's going to be pushing for Barzal to get more ice time.
Todd Reardon was the assistant coach after Trotz, and look how successful that was.
Very rarely do you see assistant coaches who are the assistant coach with the same players. Like it's one thing if they go to a different team, but if the relationship that assistant coach already has with their players, it's hard.
Right, like Mike Sullivan went to a different team from the Rangers after Schwartz.
Right, it's hard to change that your relationship with somebody. Like it's like they have a relationship with him already, and that's to me that's what's dangerous about this. This feels comfortable. Lambert's not going to be threatening. He's going to be fine.
He honestly should have let a little more time pass. He really should have.
Now, I don't think Lambert was going anywhere like right now. Maybe he felt like Detroit was going to hire him tomorrow, but
that's what I think that's the fear.
That may be.
And now, maybe they were, but at the same time, and you can say to yourself, well, if Yzerman wanted to bring him in, that's a little bit of an endorsement. That's a pretty good. If that's really the case, Yzerman doesn't just make moves blindly, so maybe.
Now, the other move was the firing of Peter DeBoer and
the scapegoating of Peter DeBoer.
Yes, and I'm telling you right now, I will be dumbfounded if one of these two names isn't the next hire in Vegas. It's either Barry Trotz or Torts. It's got to be big name, big splash in the
Trotz or Torts. Trotz or Torts. Torts or Trotz.
Trotz or Torts.
Listen, I think two people that like mix up all the time.
They're going to fritter away like the Flamingo did when it was at its height in Vegas too. These lights are flickering on this franchise. They are.
No, they really are. And I think that's would probably be a very good coach. But I have heard from very good sources that Trotz is holding out for a job of a team that is still playing in the playoffs right now. So the reality of the reality is that, and that his first choice is a team that's still playing in the playoffs right now. Of course, that team won't talk to him. That can't talk to him.
Right.
But he has a theory or has a belief or something like that he can get an interview with them at least and talk to them, and he probably will get an interview with them.
Yeah, Trotz goes to Vegas. They have immediate cap problems. You have a goalie that you've dealt with before, but can be a problem. I don't know.
He's really not made for that kind of team that they have there either. So I mean, it's not really a Trotz. So it's going to take a while in order to like bring his guys in. That's not really the right situation for him. I think that there are places. Obviously, the Flyers I know would like to talk to him. I know they'd like, but he's not. I really have heard that he's holding out. So
Winnipeg is an option.
Winnipeg's an option. The Devils have even kicked tires. I've told on him. Although the Devils really, guys like Jack Hughes and stuff like that are really pushing hard to just keep Lindy, and they don't want anybody else there. So it's possible that he doesn't go. That they would do indeed stay with that route. But I don't know. There's the whole thing about Trotz winning a management position. I've heard that too. I just don't know that that's his personality. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think I've heard that too, and I think that's more. I want some say so in the players that we acquire. I don't think.
Yeah, he probably could be named coach VP type thing. Like we've seen that kind of thing before. Where he does have more general managerial type things going on. But I don't think he really wants to be the guy working out the contracts and all that stuff. I don't think that's. I don't see that as Barry Trotz's thing. Like Barry Trotz is very, very good with players on the ice during games. He's a great. He has what he does. He does really, really well. It's all the time we have, guys. We really got to go. And we have plenty more to talk about. Tomorrow we'll be back with our predictions for the games that start tomorrow night. And I'm sure we're going to be, I'm also the rumor chart's launching this week because that's when it launches every year, right after the first round. And we have a lot of players on there. We're going to be talking about. You can read my rumor about Philip Forsberg and the LA Kings is on my website right now. on my website, on Hockey Buzz right now. And, so that's there too. I've heard lots of, there's so many different things out there right now. The rumors are starting to fly. It's going to be a crazy off season. So now that there's only 8 teams playing and 24 teams not playing, I'm going to be shifting my focus more to the masses. We'll still be talking about the games, of course, but on Hockey Buzz, I'll be doing more about the rumors and what's going to come up, because more of you are interested in what's coming up than what's happening right now on the ice. But the ice, but this next round has plenty to offer. So we'll be back again tomorrow. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. I think that might have been one long sentence I just said. We'll talk to you soon.